Win some Proline tires, win some Proline tires. Or you can win, get this puppy out of here, a winch. And it even comes with its little worn sticker. How cool is that, eh? So guys, that's going to be this year's competition. Some guys need tires, some guys need a winch. Write me in the comment which of the two you need, and I shall put you in the draw. Now let's get back into today's video. So last week's show, we fitted the AR45 SCX 10.3 standard axle kit to our build. We extended the links at the back, so I made my own links at the back because the kit didn't come with rear links. But I had a little trick up my sleeve. I wanted a bigger wheelbase. So my wheelbase now sits at exactly, let's measure this, 34.9 centimeters. I think all my other trucks were all around 30 to 31, in between there. So this is going to be the longest wheelbase truck that I've had. And I've got a little trick on my sleeve, up my sleeve. That's my skid plate. Now normally what I do is I set up my suspension as low as possible. If you look at this, there is a little bit of play left in the suspension, whereby normally I'd be right down all the way. I wouldn't be able to actually go into the suspension at all. I don't have any elastics pulling my suspension down, and I also don't have the pen spring hack in here either. But I think on the front axle I will be adding that. That is something that I still want to do in the future. The rear axle has a little bit more, but the rear shocks are limited to the full suspension. They kind of bounce out at the back. That's how I set them up, and they can't compress all the way. Now, my little ace up the sleeve is the skid plate that I 3D printed. So you need to come in a little bit closer, because this is actually a negative skid plate. So basically what I've gone ahead and done on this build is I fitted my quick run speed controller that I had lying around in one of my boxes, and I fitted the radio. Now on the battery was actually lying, in the beginning was lying on the side here, and I thought that actually just gives it a little bit of a twist, if you think of it that way. And I wanted to balance the truck out a little bit more even, although I have a bit of weight on the left side of the truck with my ESC being on that side, and I don't really have anything on this side. I don't think that is a real matter, because if I'm balancing the truck on center to center, the truck is still fairly balanced. Now, if you look at my transfer case is sitting on top of my skid plate, and the reason for that is I just kinked it at the bottom because the skid plate is printed for this transfer case. Now, normally what the transfer case does, it actually sits in line with the chassis. In this case over here, let me move that over so you can see it on the camera a little bit better. Let me bring it in a bit closer and point out that you see this little corner that is supposed to be sitting in line with the actual chassis rail. In this case, it is sitting on top because I didn't want to cut this 3D printed skid plate, because it would have just made everything so much weaker. All the links that are sitting in, let me see if I can turn it, there we go. All the links that are sitting higher up, they're kind of 2 centimeters higher up than where they would be sitting normally. So looking at the truck from below, the truck is absolutely flat on this end. Nothing is sticking out. Normally the skid plates look out, and in this case the skid plate is flush, completely flush, and the back links, the rear links, are not sitting lower, they're actually sitting all the way up there. So they're about 2 centimeters from where the standard axial skid plate would sit. The rear axle sit 2 centimeters higher, allowing me to go onto a steeper obstacle. Plus, with the suspension bottoming out, not allowing the truck to actually go into full suspension, the truck can actually sit on a steeper angled incline before it actually loses balance. Let me actually move the camera back a little bit so you can see how far this actually goes. So I'm going to take it on the front axle so you can see when the suspension actually pulls out, or when the suspension pushes out. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Now you saw how the suspension at this point went out there. It's going out, and at a little bit of a higher rate the truck will start to flip. Now that is almost vertical. I haven't measured it, but that is a very, very good result. Now, placing the battery on top, I've got a little Velcro strip that I can take it out. It is sitting on a little battery tray. Velcro stripped it over, and it is sitting on this little battery tray, an aluminium battery tray on top of the servo, and running over the motor and sitting on top of the frame of the reduction box. And I think it is a 1-to-5 reduction, because when you buy stuff new, you know what reduction boxes you buy. If you buy stuff used, everybody tells you a different story. So next on the list, yeah, we are running Traxxas TRX4 tires. These are from my TRX4 Sport, and they have been modified a little bit. Now I fitted 35 weight oil to the shocks, and the bigger bore, you can really feel this bigger bore on these shocks, because the 35 weight kind of gives you a slower rate as it compresses, and this is just so easy. I mean, it's just so amazing how this truck is sitting on these shocks. So I've taken it for a little test drive just to see how everything actually functions, or if the truck actually functions, or if something is catching on it, or if something is rubbing. The truck is driving out of the box. Like, its first run was absolutely flawless. I was so impressed that nothing went wrong. I was like, this never happens. Normally you have a prop shaft issue or something else, but everything has just been perfect. So I'm blaming it on, I'm using axial parts. So axial parts mixed with axial parts obviously have to function. So that's kind of where I'm where I'm saying, yeah, it's obviously logic that this is all functioning and working so nicely. So also what I've obviously done, I have 3D printed myself some Recaro seats, and this is let me put it this way, maybe this is a 1-to-6 scale truck. So the MB Scaler, the little Willys Jeep, is actually a 1-to-6 truck, although it is sitting on a 1-to-10 chassis. So that is basically what I'm basing the Scrambler on. The Scrambler is kind of in that scale. So I'm trying to build a scale truck, maybe class 1 truck. Maybe the body is not really that class 1 yet. Still need a windscreen, but I have a steering wheel, I have a dashboard. The body is a off-white. Everybody seems to be telling me this is white. It is not white, it's off-white. Coming to the little dashboard inside there. Now obviously with no lights. Let me see if I can switch the lights on the camera, just a sec for me. Here we go. The light is shining through to that little dashboard inside there. And that is 3D printed from Thingiverse like the entire truck is. Let me just switch that light off again. There we go. I have added some fender flares which are from a Traxxas TRX4, and I've printed them out in the size so that they actually fit the body, and automatically they became quite wide. They are a little bit wider than the original, but because I scaled them up, they weren't supposed to be this size. They are sitting on the bit of a wider side. So if I place the body on there, this truck looks like it would pass roadworthy. If you have, normally your fender flares are a little bit smaller than the actual tires. Now that these rims are not offset, these are standard rims from the TRX4, not giving me an offset, but maybe in the next couple of runs we could maybe try a couple of offset rims, because the truck is on the narrow side. This is a fairly light truck. I'm not on the heavy side with it. I haven't weighed it yet, but just from the feel, it is a lot lighter than my TRX4 Sport is. I have a little bit of weight, I think about 28 to 30 grams of weight in each tire. But other than that, there's no extra weight holding this truck down. So I think, oh, the front axles, I have not connected them to the highest point on the skid plate. They are sitting about 1 centimeter higher because the skid plate is flush with the body. So instead of the skid plate going down and the bottom link sits in the lower part of the skid plate, because the skid plate is flat, this link is sitting in the area where the chassis would be sitting. So it's basically in the height of the chassis, whereby the rear links are higher up. So the front links are 1 centimeter higher, about, not exactly, about 1 centimeter higher, and the rear links are about 2 centimeters higher than the original axial skid plate would be. Now I haven't really taken it on a very hard run yet. I've just taken it on a drive. The drivetrain as such is working quite well. My reduction box, although I have a buggy speed 2 motor in there, which on a normal truck is actually quite a, not too fast, but it's a fairly fast motor, and it is not a very slow motor. So this motor used to be in my Axial AX10 at the time, like 17-18 years back. That was the crawler motor that you could buy before all the brushless motors hit the scene. But it was on the fast side. Even the slow crawl was also on the fast side. Now with this reduction box and a little bit of a speedier motor, I was hoping to get a very slow crawl in and a fair speed of wheel speed, but I'm missing a bit of wheel speed. I think it's got something to do with the setup on the ECU. I think I can still set this up because reverse, the truck is fairly fast. So it's faster, let's put it this way. It's not fairly fast, it's faster in reverse than forwards. So I think with a bit of setting up from the ESC, maybe I can get that speed reverse so that I get a little bit more speed on the forward gear than the reverse side. Okay, now we still have suspension in the front. We still have a little suspension in the rear. Normally the truck would be sitting there. That would be the suspension setup for a comp truck. I would have the pen hack in the front wheels, keeping the suspension down, not allowing it to go into full droop. And I would be, well, the rear are actually blocked. So if I push hard, I can go further, but the weight of the truck is kind of blocked by the setup of how I filled the oil in the chambers, so that I cannot go into full suspension. So anyway, guys, I am happy with this little truck. So now I have a little scale truck that fits the scale of the MB Scaler, and they can go on a run together. What do you think about that? So guys, I think there is still a little bit of work to be done on this truck. Once we got through all the teething problems, we can do a little run with the MB Scaler. I still need to find a little driver, but I think that's not going to be a big issue. So next week, let's do a shakedown. Okay guys, that's it for me for this week. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.